IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva warns of a challenging global economic outlook. China's gross domestic product expands by 4.6% in the third quarter of 2024. And Russian President Vladimir Putin states that the BRICS group will lead global economic growth in the coming years. Welcome to the Economic Bulletin, where we present comprehensive coverage and expert insights on key updates regarding pivotal economic trends and financial shifts. Welcome back. We start off with the MENA region, where the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has emphasized that the BRICS Business Forum is convening amid unprecedented global crises and challenges, highlighting the need for unified efforts to find effective solutions. In a recorded speech, President el-Sisi expressed deep appreciation to Russian President Vladimir Putin for his ongoing efforts during Russia's presidency of the bloc this year. He acknowledged their relentless initiatives to enhance cooperation among BRICS nations, noting that meetings held in various historic Russian cities have significantly strengthened the bonds between their countries. Moreover, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has further outlined Egypt's recent efforts to improve the investment climate and boost private sector involvement in economic development. Speaking at the BRICS Business Forum, el-Sisi emphasized that the government has implemented ambitious reforms, including capping government investments to create more opportunities for private sector growth. He highlighted the ongoing initiatives in communications, information technology, manufacturing industries, and renewable energy, particularly green hydrogen. El-Sisi also reaffirmed Egypt's commitment to major infrastructure projects, improving transportation and ports, aligning these efforts with the country's strategic geographical position. The World Bank lowered its growth forecast in the Middle East and North Africa to 2.2% this year, opportunities heightened by the conflict in the region. The report stated that Gaza's economy shrank by 86% in the first half of 2024, and that the West Bank is facing an unprecedented physical and private sector crisis. The report said that the ongoing conflict in the Middle East has already inflicted a heavy human and economic toll. The report added that the Palestinian territories are nearing economic collapse, with their largest economic contraction on record. Moreover, World Bank President A.J. Banga cautioned that the Israeli war in Gaza could have significant repercussions for the global economy. Banga estimated that the economic damage from Israeli strikes on Gaza has likely reached between $14 billion and $20 billion, with the destruction from airstrikes in southern Lebanon further contributing to the regional toll. The World Bank has provided $300 million in assistance to the Palestinian Authority, but Banga indicated that more international funding is urgently needed to address the situation. Israel's war on Gaza, escalating hostilities with Hezbollah, and heightened tensions with Iran are sending shockwaves through the economy in the Middle East.
Rising tensions across the Middle East are shaking the economic outlook for the region, prompting major economic institutions to lower their growth forecast. The World Bank now projects 2.2% growth for 2024, a downgrade from the earlier estimate of 2.7%. The IMF previously adjusted its predictions to the same level. Israel's war on Gaza, growing hostilities with Hezbollah, and increased tensions with Iran are creating ripple effects across the region. Gaza's economy has all but collapsed, and Jordan's tourism sector is suffering a sharp decline. Meanwhile, Lebanon faces mounting economic and humanitarian crisis amid escalating violence. Oil prices remain a global concern, as any disruption could trigger inflation and destabilize economies further. Analysts warn that market volatility may only intensify if the conflict worsens. While inflation in some parts of the region is expected to ease, the recovery remains uneven. Gulf nations are showing resilience with their diversification efforts, but oil-importing countries are bracing for tougher challenges amid growing uncertainties.
Joining us today to discuss the latest economic developments in the MENA region and the potential impacts of further escalation is Mr. Amgad Atiyah, the economist. Mr. Amgad, welcome to Q News. We're glad to have you with us to know your inputs on the matter. Let me first start by asking you. Hello, sir. How do you assess the recent decline in economic growth forecasts for the MENA region, specifically regarding the direct and indirect impacts of the war in Gaza and the ongoing conflict in Lebanon?
First of all, thank you for having me and congratulations on the new broadcast. It's my pleasure to be with you for the first time. Well, when you look at the situation, when you get an overview of the situation, it comes at no surprise that the World Bank and other rating agencies and international agencies will start to have a negative outlook for the region. You have a region that was inflicted by economic hardship during COVID, very difficult recovery roads, high inflation, devaluation of local currencies in many countries, and on the top of all of this, you have now a conflict that is threatening to be a regional, a lot bigger than what it is now. The Israeli strikes on Gaza and the Israeli-Iranian conflict could have a huge effect on the economic outlook of the region. Right now we have...
Yes, speaking of the Israeli conflict with Iran, in the event of an escalation of tensions with Iran, how could the bombing of oil refineries affect the economic stability of neighboring countries, particularly those that rely heavily on oil imports?
Well, right now, the U.S. administration is exerting as much effort as possible to rein in the Israeli response on Iran. They're trying to avoid oil infrastructure as well as nuclear facilities. So if the U.S. administration is able to actually rein in the Israeli prime minister and limit the strike to other military targets, that would be the much better outcome for the region. Because the concern here is if Israel hits the oil infrastructure, we're going to see a huge rise in oil prices, which will impact negatively, of course, not just the region, but the global outlook. Please bear in mind that we are at the, 3 weeks away from the U.S. election, and any impact, negative impact on oil prices will negatively impact the party in power, which are the Democrats and President Biden. So they're trying to do as much as possible to avoid showing weakness and showing the fact that they are unable to rein in Israel and they are unable to rein in the conflict. So, I think based on what we have heard so far, that Israel is not going to hit the oil infrastructure in Iran. They're not going to hit the nuclear facilities. And that should, in principle, limit the scope of the conflict. Right now, the United States does not want this conflict to get bigger, does not want regional forces to be involved in this. We've seen Russia providing support for Iran. We've seen North Korea providing support for Iran. So this is not what the United States wants at this moment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amgad, for your insight. Sorry for interrupting you due to the shortage of time. Thank you so much for being with us in the Economic Bulletin. On a global note, the IMF Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, warned of a challenging global economic outlook with slow medium-term growth, rising trade tensions, and high debt levels. Speaking ahead of the IMF and World Bank meetings, she highlighted the impact of high prices on the poor, the risks posed by the Middle East conflict, and concerns over increased military spending, reducing resources for development aid. Georgieva also emphasized that trade restrictions are cooling global economic growth, but noted some positive developments, including declining inflation and stable labor markets in the US and Europe.
Without tipping the global economy into recession and large-scale job losses. Something we saw.
On another note, International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva warned that China must shift towards a consumer-driven economy to avoid dangerously slow growth. In an interview with Reuters, Georgieva said that China's reliance on export-led growth is unsustainable for its large economy and could result in growth falling below 4% in the medium term. Georgieva emphasized that changes are needed to boost consumer confidence, especially following China's real estate crisis.
Starting from the measures that have been taken, they are measures in the right direction. They aim to ease the impact of the real estate crisis on the Chinese economy and revive confidence.
Sort of new mechanisms to try to ease liquidity strain, a different tack.
We have always been saying it as we see it. And in the case of China, we have been analyzing China's policies for many years, and we have been pointing to the deficiencies in some of these policies. More specifically, we have done quite a lot of work on subsidies in China, on the necessity to put state-owned enterprises and private enterprises on equal footing from a competitiveness standpoint.
The National Bureau of Statistics revealed that China's gross domestic product expanded by 4.6% in the third quarter of 2024, marking the slowest pace since early 2023. The Chinese economy grew by 4.8% year-on-year in the first 9 months of 2024, reaching approximately 94.97 trillion yuan, equivalent to $13.33 trillion. Moreover, the economy grew 0.9% on a quarterly basis. Furthermore, China's central bank and financial regulators have urged financial institutions to swiftly implement policies to support the economy and capital markets. The People's Bank of China emphasized boosting credit for the real economy, adjusting interest rates, and implementing new funding schemes to aid the stock market. These efforts follow the central bank's recent measures, including interest rate cuts and a 1 trillion yuan liquidity injection, aimed at helping China reach its 5% growth target for 2024. The bank highlighted the need for coordinated efforts to restore market confidence. Still in China, the National Bureau of Statistics showed that China's home prices fell at the fastest rate in 9 years in September, marking the 16th consecutive month of decline. Prices dropped by 6.1% year-on-year across 70 cities, the largest fall since May 2015, extending the 5.7% decrease seen in August. Despite government efforts to stabilize the market, prices continue to decline, with major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen seeing a 0.5% monthly drop in new home prices. Second-hand home prices also fell, signaling ongoing challenges in the property sector's recovery. The Japanese Internal Affairs Ministry said that the inflation eased to 2.4% in September, down from 2.8% in August, as energy price hikes slowed. Despite the slowdown, inflation remained above the Bank of Japan's 2% target, which has been surpassed every month since April 2022. Analysts expect further deceleration in core inflation for October, although the end of electricity subsidies by December may push inflation higher. The Bank of Japan has raised interest rates twice this year, taking initial steps to shift away from its ultra-loose monetary policies. Russian President Vladimir Putin stated that the BRICS group will lead global economic growth in the coming years due to its size and faster growth compared to Western nations. Speaking ahead of a BRICS summit in Kazan, Putin emphasized the group's potential to challenge Western dominance in politics and trade. He highlighted the expansion of BRICS to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE, as well as great sovereignty. Putin also urged investment in technology, infrastructure, and new transport projects linking Eurasia and Africa.
Я хочу вас поблагодарить. Успехов в вашей благородной работе. Спасибо большое. По итогам текущего года средние темпы экономического роста в БРИКС прогнозируются на уровне 4%. Это выше как темпов в странах «семерки», там всего 1,7%, и общемировые темпы будут 3,2%. Ну, прогноз.
That's all for now. Here's a roundup of today's key headlines. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva warns of a challenging global economic outlook. China's gross domestic product expands by 4.6% in the third quarter of 2024. And Russian President Vladimir Putin states that the BRICS group will lead global economic growth in the coming years. That's all for today's Economic Bulletin on Q News. Stay connected for more news and updates. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. For real-time updates, connect with us on the UMS digital platform. Watch it. Thank you so much for watching.